How's it going, everybody? This is the Stimulus Check Hub here, and today we're going to be talking about a pretty big deal, and that is that Joe Biden just stepped in and he released a $2 trillion infrastructure plan. So for those of you who have been driving around recently, I'm sure you've noticed that our roads are pretty crappy. Our infrastructure's falling apart, and that's because relative to the past, we've been investing less and less in our infrastructure. And this just goes to show why the stimulus was so necessary, because we haven't made the long-term investments to get people employed in good jobs so that when a collapse that the government caused, by the way, the government completely caused all of this. It is entirely their fault. They're the ones who shut down the economy. They're the ones who have to pass the stimulus. This is, I want to jump topics for a little bit. I'm going to go back to the infrastructure plan in a minute. But think about this with the stimulus. You have people complaining that workers are finally starting to earn a little bit more money. The people are complaining that, oh my God, wages are going up, as if that's a bad thing, right? As if people at the bottom can never get a raise. And that's what these people want, because they're satanic. They're sick people. They want people at the bottom to stay at the bottom. They psychologically get off on abusing people at the bottom. They don't want to see people at the bottom lift themselves up. They don't want to see someone have a decent wage to be able to provide for their family, because they're evil. They're satanic. It's all about the bottom line of these people. That's all it is. It's not what the country was founded on, by the way. The country was founded on helping your fellow man, ideally. That's what we were supposed to be founded on. That's what we were supposed to, I think that's the ideal of the country, is where we help each other. That's not the way it is anymore. We've gone away from God. We're a godless society now. But the point is, Biden is introducing a $2 trillion infrastructure plan. And I actually agree with the plan. I'm not going to lie. I agree with the plan. If you've driven around this country, if you're a truck driver out there, you've definitely driven around the country. You've seen that our infrastructure is actually falling apart. I mean, our infrastructure empirically, you drive around, you see it. Our electricity needs to be redone. A lot of lead pipes need to be gotten rid of. I completely understand the $2 trillion. Here's what I don't understand. If the government is making the argument that we can create unlimited money and there's no inflation, and dude, they're telling us there's no inflation. I'm seeing inflation. I'm seeing costs go up personally for me. I've seen food prices go up. I've seen everything I buy has gone up in price. But the Federal Reserve and the people in the government are telling me that this inflation is temporary, it's going to go away, things are going to normalize. I don't believe them, but that's what they're telling us. What I don't understand is, if we can spend unlimited money, which is basically what these people believe, and I don't know, I'm not an economist, I have no idea, why are we having trouble passing more stimulus? I mean, truthfully, if debt really doesn't matter, which is what the primary belief seems to be in Washington now, then why can't we pass stimulus? I mean, if we can pass a $2 trillion infrastructure plan, we can pass all this other stuff, but when it comes to giving money directly to the people, that's not allowed. And you know what it is? What I've been seeing a lot of Congress people do is they're basically trying to make the argument, you know what we should do? We should get rid of unemployment entirely. That way we have to force people to go back to work. They want a lower class of citizen. They want to do what the book 1984 says, everyone's equal, but some people are more equal than others. They want to create a lower class citizen type where everybody has to work for like $9 an hour, even though rents are going up and costs are going up. It's just unsustainable. And these people want inflation, by the way. Talk to these economists. There's a lot of these experts, quote unquote. They actually want costs to go up, which never made any sense to me, because when I go shopping, I usually look for the cheapest deal. It never made sense to me why it's good for us to have increasing costs. That really doesn't make any sense if you think about it. But that's the way they want the system to be. All right, then you have to pass stimulus in order to compensate for that, because wages are not keeping up. Straight up. That's just what it is. But the point is here that this $2 trillion infrastructure plan is, in a way, a type of stimulus. It's going to help a lot of local economies. You're going to have a lot of private contractors doing the job, and they're going to have to pay people a certain wage. I'm presuming the government has it all laid out in a way where they have to pay people certain wages to take the jobs. And frankly, I'm all for that, because our infrastructure is a disaster. This is long overdue, and this needed to be done. What I'm not for is the fact that there's always a debate around helping the people. There's always a debate. There's always people who say, oh, we should do a little less. You ever notice that? Whenever somebody proposes something in Congress, there's always the other side who's like, oh, we should do a little less or we should do more. It's never there can never be an agreement between the two sides because these two sides, they get off on fighting with each other. They love fighting with each other because it catches a headline. They want to fight with each other because it makes it easier for them to get votes from the people that they basically make angry on their side. They're throwing meat to their base. That's what they're doing. So this entire thing, this entire system is purely built to enrich the people who are closest to the money, right? Whoever is close to the Federal Reserve, whoever is close to the central banks of the world, those are the people who are going to be in charge. And right now, that's the government. The government is influencing the Federal Reserve. It's supposed to be a separate entity. It's not a separate entity. This entire system is fundamentally unsound. So I do believe this is going to fail. I do believe that the infrastructure plan will go through, but it's not going to be the $2 trillion. I think it's going to be a different type of plan. Maybe they'll do it without the Republican. The Republicans don't really support this one. I support this bill. I think it's pretty good. I don't really consider myself a Democrat. I'm not really a Republican. I don't know what I'm more of a moderate. I think both sides make good points occasionally. Both sides make really bad points occasionally. It really just depends on the issue. But I think on the infrastructure issue, I'm kind of on board with this plan. I really do believe we need to invest more in our infrastructure. And I do believe this is a quasi type of stimulus for a lot of local economies out there, particularly in more rural regions where their infrastructure really has been neglected by the states because the states just don't have the money for it. The states, they can't even manage their finances. Isn't it amazing how the government just can't manage money? Like, these are the people we put in charge. They just can't manage to handle their money, even though we're giving them all our tax dollars. But they can never balance a budget. They can never give the citizens an idea of what they're spending the money on. It's all just, oh, it's necessary. Oh my God, this is amazing. We're doing our best. You never get a straight answer out of these guys about what they're doing. Like this $2 trillion infrastructure plan, if you wanted to know line by line what was in this, you'd have to read 1,000 pages. So they make it so complicated because they don't actually want you to know. I guarantee you there's a bunch of stuff hidden in here that's completely irrelevant. Now, I'm not saying that I disagree with the plan. I agree with the plan broadly, the idea of passing an infrastructure plan. I think it's necessary. But the idea that we don't know what's in it, they don't give us a summary of it for basic people who just want to know what's going on, that's how you know it's shady. That's how you know this whole thing is shady and it's an attempt to extract more money from the taxpayers, which is ultimately their goal. Also, and I'm going to say this in a couple other videos too, everyone who's so happy about their houses going up in value, quote unquote, because it's not going up in value, it's going up in dollar-denominated assets. It's going up in dollars, but dollars are being printed at a record rate, so it's really not actually going up. It's going up in value, quote unquote, but you also have to pay more property taxes on that now. I mean, if your property went up $100,000, well, you owe a ton more property taxes on that. So it's a double-edged sword. Increasing property taxes helps the quote-unquote wealth effect. At least that's what the Fed believes, but it's all short-term.